Welcome back to Wandering into Wellness. Lydia and Finn here, as always. And
Again.
today we're very, very excited to be joined by a special guest and a friend of mine, Mandalei, founder of Magic Earth Cacao. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Forgive my bedroom in the background. I feel like very, I feel very not with it for Zoom.
Well, with something we talk about a lot is how ceremony can happen in any setting. Setting is how you make it, right?
And also, cacao is kind of cozy, right? So being in the bedroom seems appropriate, in fact, for cacao, especially since we're doing this podcast in the lead up to Valentine's Day and this celebration of love and romance and aphrodisiac qualities of cacao. And that's kind of why we wanted to talk to you. So I think it feels appropriate that you're in the bedroom.
Perfect. Well, I did start in my bed right over there, but the lighting wasn't good enough. So I do everything really important. My bed is like my nest, you know, that is where I do like most of these talks and a lot of my work from. So yeah, you're right. Leading up to Valentine's Day, especially.
In bed with Mandalei.
Yeah, nice. That is good.
It should be your podcast, In Bed with Mandalei.
Totally.
So thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited that you were able to do this, because when we were trying to decide who we wanted to get on to talk about cacao in advance of Valentine's Day, we were trying to think about all these different people that we knew who did cacao, but I was, Mandalei, she's the one. And I think mainly because we really wanted someone who is really authentic, who has this really authentic journey with cacao, and also who really understands the ceremony and the roots and the history of this thing. And you make your own beautiful cacao as well, which you can talk to us about. So can you tell us, maybe to start with, how did you discover cacao? What was your intro to cacao, and how did it affect you personally that made you want to go on this journey?
Okay, well, it's big and it's long, so I'm going to try to make it succinct. My very first time that I tried ceremonial cacao, I was in Ireland, actually near the Hill of Slane, with a very good friend of mine. Everyone finds it interesting that I was introduced to cacao in Ireland. It happened in 2018, when ceremonial cacao really wasn't known about in Ireland. Less the world was just really starting to get to know about ceremonial cacao, and we know even more about it now since the pandemic, and that's something we can talk about. But yes, my first time trying ceremonial cacao was in Ireland. And I had worked with other plant medicines before ceremonial cacao. I had worked with ayahuasca and wachuma, rapé, lots of other ancient plants that have really healing properties, but they tend to be a little harsher in their experience, a little more deeper for sure on a physical level, and the integration time that you need after working with these plants and the preparation before working with these plants is something that I was really surprised you don't need with ceremonial cacao. I learned in my first experience, you can have a really deep, blissful, internal experience and connection to nature and others, like spontaneously. There's really, you don't need to go on a diet plan. You don't need to make sure that you have like perfect sleep for 6 days. I don't know, this might not mean anything to you guys, but when you're working with some other plants, like you've heard about dietas, and there's a lot of rules to make sure you're doing it right. And the thing that was amazing about ceremonial cacao is like, you can just have a cup, you can reap those benefits. And then it's very easy to integrate what you've learned and received into your daily life. So I was super touched by this and like couldn't believe it. And I felt like everyone in Ireland needed to know about this, because go ahead.
So when you say you were super touched by it, like what was the effect for you, your first time engaging with cacao as a medicine? Like what was the experience? What was your felt experience of it? What was the change? What was the shift?
I was with two friends. We were out in nature, laying in the grass. It was a sunny day for Ireland, you know, some clouds coming in. And my friend who was guiding us said, let's just lie down in the grass and let's feel ourselves connect to nature, connect to the elements. Let's be in silence. Like, you know, we don't have to talk right now. Let's just, you know, reap the benefits of this medicine. And I'm like, chocolate, dude. Okay. You know, like how great can it be? And I'm like, but I'll do it. Like, I love meditation and I'm on this healing journey. I'm learning about spirit, connecting to the land of Ireland, the spiritual land of Ireland. So I did. And just lying there, I don't know. I really felt one with the earth, with the grass and the soil beneath me. The sun felt more powerful, but not in a hot way, in an energizing way. Like I could really feel the the spiritual energy of the sun, that yang energy. And I could feel the yin energy of the cool earth beneath me. I felt very close to my two friends who were quite new friends to me. I didn't know them that well, or I hadn't known them for very long. But in this experience with the cacao, I felt like I knew them forever, like they were best friends forever.
Mm.
And we must have lied in silence, maybe a little giggle here and there, for probably about an hour or so. And then when we decided to start talking again, it was just, I don't know, it's hard to say. It was a blissful experience. Like I definitely felt this heart opening. I definitely felt a lightness in my body, um, and just a lightness in my feeling about the world and about others. I don't know if that makes sense, but I know I'm not the only one because I've guided so many people through ceremony, indoors and outdoors, and everyone kind of comes away saying the same thing in the end. Like whatever's happening during the ceremony can be lots of things, but in the end, when it's over, it's like there's this overarching sense of bliss, calm. Everything's going to be okay,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
everything is okay.
And so then you're like, what was your journey back to discover this again, or to like deepen your experience with it? And where did obviously the brand come from? Like, what was the next step? Because for most people, they would have it like we've had cacao ceremony, you know, once or twice a year, enjoy it, do other things. And but for you, it really obviously connected with you so strongly that it became like a lot of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was heading to Peru with a few other people to work with ancient plants. And I said, I need to meet the cacao plant. I need to learn about cacao before I can start sharing her with others. And I didn't even know that I was necessarily going to do that. I was just like, I need to know why this plant works like this.
Mm.
And am I imagining it? Or, is this something that I can share with others? Because I had that thought in my mind. Everyone in Ireland needs to have access to this type of healing, simple healing process through just a drink of tasty chocolatey flavors. Even though it's not chocolate, we can talk about that. So yeah, I looked online, I called different tourist agencies. It wasn't like easy to just find a family that farms cacao to go and learn from. But I just kept trying. And once I got over there, I found a gentleman whose family lived in the jungle. So I was in the Cusco Valley in Pisac, which is where our Peruvian cacao is processed. And he said, my family actually lives next door to a cacao farmer in the jungle. I can talk to him and see like if you'll have to pay money, but I can bring you to him. It'll be like an 8-hour drive up through the mountains, and it will be however many dollars. And I said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. I really need to know about this. And I'm here in this country where cacao, it's her origin land. So I went to meet this family. They didn't speak any English. Their Spanish was even limited. I'm fluent in Spanish, which made this journey easier, but their Spanish was even limited. They spoke Quechuan. So I needed him to translate for me. And there with them, I learned all about how to grow cacao. I learned how to process the beans. I wish I had a pod with me, but you can't get them out of the jungle, customs and all that, and it would die. But I learned how to, take the pods off of the tree, how to chop them open, how to pull out the seeds, if you will, that are covered in this white gelatinous material that is really sour and sweet and delicious. It's like having a little gummy. You can suck the stuff off. you take all those beans, you put them in a vat, you leave them, you cover them with banana leaves, you leave them to ferment for 3 to 5 to 10 days. The longer, the better. Then you take them out, you toast them on an open fire, and then you put them in a mill, you grind them up. Out comes this paste. Do this, boom, you let it dry overnight, and you've got a block of cacao. I wish I had one right here. I didn't know it would be on video, but there you have it. So I learned all of that from them, and how to make it into a drink by they use water. They used cinnamon leaf. I don't know if you guys have ever had cinnamon leaf, but it's a very
Oh,
different.
once, yes, in the jungle in Costa Rica, I have.
Incredible, right?
Yeah, weird. Yeah.
It's a totally different flavor from cinnamon bark, which is, the bark from the tree, not the leaf.
Yeah.
And a little bit of salt and sugar, and it was the most delicious thing ever.
Wow.
And that was that. So where I was living in PSAC was with a gentleman who also had a cacao farm. It wasn't his farm that I learned on. And I tried his cacao, and I became very close with the family while I was there, and since after. And I said, I'd like to buy a few of your bars of cacao to bring back to Ireland with me when I go. And he was like, yeah, sure, of course. Going back, when I was on the cacao farm learning with the family, for me, it was really important to get permission from the spirit of the cacao plant to bring her back to Ireland and share with other people. And I was very prepared to hear the answer no. I would have been fine with that. So I sat under the tree, not too close to it, because as you know, probably from Costa Rica, the jungle floor is like covered in ants and crawly things, and the trees are covered in crawly things. So there's no like sitting and meditating on the floor in the jungle, right? So I'm like as close to the tree as I can be, like, how do I want to hug, but how do I do this? And anyways, I sat there, I meditated, or stood there, meditated, asked for permission specifically to bring Ceremonial Cacao back to Ireland. And the answer was yes. And I was like, awesome. Didn't know if I was going to do it. I didn't know where to buy cacao or have it. This family that I learned from, unfortunately, they were part of a government collective that required them to give all of their beans to the government collective for big cacao. Yeah, and it's quite sad, because what he was explaining to me at that time, I know you guys are into this side of things. He was explaining to me at that time. So there's one really cool thing about the cacao tree. It only produces fruit twice per year, right? Which is really neat. And after planting a cacao plant, the tree, it takes, God, it's like 5 or 6 years before the first fruit will grow, right? So this is part of the experience of working with ceremonial cacao that I think really connects us back to nature and the plant, and that slowing down within ourselves. Like the plant itself takes 5 years to produce anything. Like we as humans, how much time are we given to produce stuff? Like if you have a boss, if your boss says, like, no one's given you 5 years to do anything, like everything is like this in our society. So I think that's the first aspect of why ceremonial cacao and working with this plant helps us to connect inward and slow down, because this is exactly what the plant is doing. She's growing real slow, and then she's only given us 2 harvests per year, right? So there's enough ceremonial cacao for everyone who's using it right now, but there is this sense that she is a limited resource, and she needs to be respected, farmed properly, so that we can keep her on planet Earth. But going back to that, what I learned was that these government agencies and these collectives, they're creating hybrid plants, and these hybrid cacao plants are already out there. A lot of our commercial cacao and commercial chocolate are coming from hybrid plants, and they create these plants to be resistant to predators, insects and diseases, and also so that they can harvest the plants more than twice a year, so that they can harvest them 3 to 4 times per year, maybe more, And this is really interfering with the natural process of Mother Earth. And I don't know, perhaps the energy of the plant. I haven't worked with hybrid plants because they're not ceremonial grade. So anyways, little tangent there into the
So
nerdiness.
ceremonial grade denotes a single species plant. So does it? So like, as I understand it, like, so we would have some good chocolate in our shop. Pura Porcelana from Peru. We have some Cusco Chuncho, actually, 100%. And those, as I understand, are some of the very few non-hybridized, because cacao loves to hybridize, right? Like, it'll just cross-pollinate like crazy. It's like apple trees. Like, you'll find different varieties of cacao in a single tree, right?
Yes. Yeah. But when I feel when this is happening naturally, that's Mother Nature doing her thing. But when government agencies come in to, like, the family that I worked with, that are they're really poor, you know, they're not getting enough money for that cacao that they're giving to these big companies.
Okay.
So I don't know, when the humans are interfering with the pollination process and creating hybrids for the purpose of producing more, for the purpose of interfering with the plant's natural process, which is meant to be slow, I think that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, and that's definitely would not be ceremonial grade.
Yeah.
And Mandalei, when you were with the family, or when you were with either of the families, learning about the cacao, did you learn a lot about the indigenous roots of how cacao, what cacao means to them, how they would have used it in ceremony, its history, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, not so much in Peru, but more so in Guatemala, when I was in Guatemala working with the Rucushleya Women's Collective. And the reason I didn't in Peru is I think I was working on so many other things. Again, like I said, I wasn't positive. I had no idea that I was going to grow a business. When I was thinking of bringing cow to Ireland, like, you know, you have these big ideas, but they just seem like a little dream, or it's just like a little imaginary thing, like, oh, what if that happened? And then you just kind of forget about it. Right? It was one of those types of things. I didn't have a plan or a timeline or anything. I was just like, I really feel like people in Ireland need to have access to this. I would like to help bring it here, but I had no plan to do that. I didn't know for sure that I was going to. I was like in the jungle, man. I was on a journey. I didn't really know for sure I would even get back to Ireland, you know? I was going wherever the medicine took me. So, yeah, I didn't probe a lot of questions about the history there. I've learned a lot since. And the other thing is, these families I worked with, they're not really historians themselves. They're not really educated people. They've lost a lot in their history. The same way that has happened in Ireland, with Ireland's ancient history being completely overshadowed by Christianity. Like, we're getting really deeply reconnected now, but there was a lot of years in the history of Ireland, just like in the history of Central and South America, where when Christianity and the Europeans went over there, they overtook a lot, and a lot of the history has been forgotten, or is just not talked about or touched on anymore. So I do remember when I did ask a little bit about that, I didn't get very many answers. And like I said, I didn't really need to know either. It didn't matter to me. I knew that this medicine worked. I knew these were good people. I knew it was farmed well, and I was happy. But where I learned a lot more was from the Rucushleya Women's Collective in Guatemala, in Lake Atitlan, Guatemala. And this is where a large amount of the world's ceremonial cacao comes from. Many brands come out of Lake Atitlan, Guatemala.
And that's like Keith's Cacao is from there as well, isn't it? Is that one of them? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And rest in peace, Keith. He has recently left us, which is, really big in the ceremonial cacao world, because he was like, you know, whatever, some people don't like him because he was a white man, you know, bringing out ceremonial cacao, and some people might think it should have been the indigenous people who were bringing that to the world, but he had access, he had a channel to the Western world, and he brought ceremonial cacao back into the light. You know, in the 17th century, when European colonization happened, the sacred origins of cacao were kind of forgotten. The spiritual aspects of cacao were kind of forgotten. cacao was used by noblemen, by the clergy, by royalty, and by commoners in celebrations and for special occasions and for connection to Mother Nature. After European colonization in the 17th century, cacao beans were either, whatever story you want to believe, either they were traded to the Europeans or the Europeans took them to Europe. Whichever it was, commercial chocolate was born. We started mixing it with milk and sugar and other things. Cocoa, processed cocoa, was created for the British Army. You know, I won't go into the process of it, but, you know, adding sugar to it, and they were using it as an energy drink. So in this process of Europeans taking cacao to Europe and creating these other things, chocolate, basically, processed cacao like you get in Tesco's or Super Value, and that's mixed with sugar and highly processed, and commercial chocolate, like I think Cadbury's, no, Nestle was the first, or Lindt. I can't remember. I have it documented, and it's documented. And if you want to go look at the history of chocolate, you can find it on the internet, simple and easy. But when that happened, we forgot about the sacred origins of cacao, and he, bless him, brought it back in the limelight.
And so can you tell us some of the ceremonial uses, how it would have been then versus today, and why people might be interested? So people listening who are like, well, this sounds really curious and it sounds really fascinating. How do we connect to that ceremony? Why would we be interested in connecting to the ceremony as opposed to just having a cup of cacao?
Yeah, so this is also a misconception. So the way that ceremonial cacao was used by the indigenous people, and still is, the cacao was an addition to whatever other ceremony they were having. So there was never ceremonies just worshiping the cacao plant. Having the cacao plant and sharing her was like an addition to, like in Mayan tradition, the fuego sagrado, the sacred fire ceremony, is really, really big for them. And they can do many things in these ceremonies. A big part of it always is connecting to Mother Nature and to the elements. And they consider the spirit of the cacao plant to be just that, a spirit, a goddess, an energy that they can connect with and tap into for spiritual guidance and healing. So traditionally, that's how ceremonial cacao is used. Now, in modern times, you will see ceremonial cacao used in various ways, connected with sound healing, connected with ecstatic dance, connected with Reiki healing, connected with yoga. You know, people are incorporating ceremonial cacao into lots of different practices. And this would be more in line with the traditional, right? Incorporate the cacao into this other ceremony that we're holding, as she's like a support to it. Do now modernly have ceremonies that are focused just on the cacao plant. These would be the type of ceremonies that I would have been holding myself, and seeking guidance from the spirit of cacao, like coming together in a group to connect. Usually, like what I found in my ceremonies is that people were coming there for themselves. They didn't know that they were seeking connection to their community and to others, but they'd learn throughout the process that they were really happy that that happened and they needed it. But most people come to ceremony looking for some clarity, looking for some self-care, some time to just like be away from the kids or the family or work or whatever. And then while they're there, they usually get a lot more than what they're expecting to get.
Yeah, like anything, I think that gives us that suggestion, like little beckoning, little like invitation inwards in this day and age of like everything being outwards is such an important thing. I think, yeah, cacao, like having been kind of like, you know, enjoying dark chocolate and enjoying cacao drinks for a long time, I think it was like I didn't really expect how profound actually the ceremony we went to together was it Danielle? Was that her name?
Yeah, Danielle.
Yeah.
She's a friend of Mandelei.
Okay, yeah. She gave a great ceremony, hosted a great ceremony. That was about 2018, 2019. And yeah, I think we both came away kind of quite surprised by how profound that, you know, little gathering was, and what it seemed to facilitate. Like cacao, we know a little bit, like it's got some like anandamide in it. It's got that amazing kind of bliss chemical in it. It has all these phytocannabinoids as well, some relationship to the sorts of things we find in the hemp plant. It's got theobromine. Do you look at those things when in relation to your cacao? Is there like, do you look at like analysis of what's going on there, or do you just trust what's within the chocolate or within the cacao, not the chocolate, to bring your people to the place you want to get them to? And does it change from harvest to harvest? Do you have a different sensation when you know 2021 versus 2022, where the two harvests are like, they're obviously different ends of the year as well, there's different seasons, so there's usually different energies and connected to them. Do those things are they part of your world when it comes to cacao?
Not really.
All right.
For me, she's really about the connection inward. She's really about the connection to the heart, the connection to others, to the collective. Like her nutritional benefits and all the amazing compounds she has in her, yeah, they're important, but I don't drink her for those reasons. To me, that's just a bonus. And I wouldn't have focused on those aspects of the cacao plant and the spirit of cacao when working with her and introducing her to others. People would ask, and of course, I would give answers as to, as to confirm, yes, these things are in there. Yes, this is part of why you feel this experience. Like scientifically, they say that the heart, with a ceremonial dose of cacao, which is 2 ounces approximately, the heart expands by 30%, like physically expands by 30% because of the increase in our blood flow from the theobromine and the other compounds that cacao causes to be released from our brain.
That's an
So
amazing
it's
thing.
an energetic thing. And I mean, you guys know from your practices, like our energy is connected to our physical, they're intertwined, they're not separate. So like it's scientifically proven, like it's not just energy, it is physical, and yes, they have to be connected. Like
that's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
They're always, because that's a really interesting point to make as well, because I think you hear a lot in the cacao space that cacao is heart opening. And for people who are in our world, especially in the yoga world, we talk a lot about heart opening yoga and heart opening poses, and we understand what we mean by that phrase. But for people who aren't in that world and they hear it, they're like, heart opening, that sounds super woo woo. But when you hear it like that, you also understand that if you are not in that world, it really makes physical sense. Like it is literally opening your heart and the channels to your heart. And no wonder then that it sits in this aphrodisiac place where there's this, you're talking about connection to yourself and connection to community. And of course, when you're more connected to yourself and your heart is open, you're naturally going to be more connected to your partner or to your lover or to other people. We were reading some interesting facts about cacao before we came on today. And they were saying that Montezuma, the Aztec emperor, used to have 50 cups of hot chocolate or cacao before ever visiting his harem to help with his libido and his energy. And Alan Hirsch in his research center scientifically found that just the scent of chocolate, just even the smell of chocolate, causes an increase in penile blood flow, which is pretty interesting because we talk about it being an aphrodisiac, but if actually just even the smell of it increases the blood flow down there, we know that if the blood flow to our genitals are working really well, everything's going to be working really well, everything's going to feel nice and open. It's kind of useful to think of in terms of bringing a different aspect into your loving and into those practices around romance, right?
And like you said, cacao traditionally is being used as like part of a ceremony as opposed to necessarily the focus of the ceremony itself. So it's part of like, whether it's sexual ceremony or whatever it is with your partner, like it makes a lot of sense to apply it in so many things, actually, in so many parts of life, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And leading up to that, because we're having this chat and it's leading up to Valentine's Day and we're talking about the heart opening. You just mentioned like, increasing sexual pleasure with your partner and it being an aphrodisiac. What I found also with it is it's really great for connecting to yourself. Not everybody has a partner to share romantic love with. So one thing I think that is really important about Ceremonial Cacao is that she really helps us connect to the love within ourselves. And that lends to helping us achieve greater self-pleasure. So, you know, she can be an aphrodisiac for ourselves as well, which I think is really
self-pleasure first. We literally just finished recording a podcast about that as well. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Did you? Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I mean, because I remember I had so many Valentine's days that I was single and no dates or anything. And it was like, you know, I think one day I finally was like, you know, I'm just going to celebrate myself and I'm just going to love myself. And in fact, I didn't say that at the beginning when you asked about how cacao came into my life. Why I was on a healing journey is because I was told I wouldn't be able to have children. Wow. So I was facing that question of the human experience, like, will I never be a mother? So that's how cacao came into my life. It was the fertility aspect for me. And like I was a lawyer before, working in a corporate job in the IFSC. Anyhow, through the help of cacao and other plant medicines, I gave up that job and said I could not go back. And a year later, after traveling, meeting the plant, coming back to Ireland, doing a couple of cacao ceremonies, sharing cacao with other people. I had a cacao ceremony in Wicklow, and my husband walked in. And usually at my ceremonies, it's mostly women who come to these ceremonies, because a lot of people, if you hear about ceremonies from someone, people cry, there's crying, right? There's often tears. And that's because it's an emotional release. The ceremonial cacao is helping us to release the stuff that we're holding on to, the tension in our bodies. That's emotional stuff. It comes out in tears, and some people are embarrassed of that. Nothing to be embarrassed about. We've got to let it go somehow, you know? So it's mostly women who would come to my ceremonies. And every now and then there'd be one man. Like there was usually a token man at the ceremony, somebody's husband or friend.
Everywhere I go.
Yeah, I had a dad come with his daughter once. That was amazing. And yeah, it was really cool. He was in his 70s and he sat in a chair and set him on the ground with us. It was, yeah, that's a story for another time. The masculine energy came in big. There was a fire. There were 2 fires, and the ceremony ended with someone's car outside the window playing Johnny Cash's The Ring of Fire.
What?
Not kidding.
Wild.
Not kidding. And we went around the circle and shared after. And usually people are like, oh, I was connecting to my maternal energy. My grandmother came in, because cacao is known as a feminine spirit and really connects us to Mother Earth and that feminine energy and our own fertility, heart womb connection, you know. But this ceremony, everyone's going around like, my late dad was here. My uncle, great, 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 great uncle, like he was there. And this is so weird. I never connect with him. And I'm like, we had a fire. We had 2 fires. Some ladies, the sage put this lady's blanket on fire. Yeah, fire alarm went off during the thing at the beginning. Thankfully, some people just thought it was the music because the music was loud. It was crazy. And then in the end, an incense fell into a candle and exploded. And then it ends with Ring of Fire. Everyone's talking about their paternal energy coming in, their grandpas and their ex-boyfriends and stuff. And then we get around to the dad who is there, and he's like, sure, I put my dad's, what is it called? The eulogy card, right? Oh, yeah. He said, I put my dad's eulogy card in there. Because I was like, how is all this male energy coming in? And he said, I put my dad's eulogy card in the altar space. And I'm like, whoa, boom. Like, maybe that was it. Or maybe it was a bunch of things. I don't know. But it was like all fire, all yang, male, sun energy.
That had some strong energy.
Strong energy.
Wow.
Anyway, tell us about your husband though, because that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it was the day after the summer solstice of 2019. And it was like a beautiful sunny day in Ireland. Like it was a gorgeous weekend. And I actually didn't want to be going indoors to hold a ceremony, to be honest. I was like, I just want to be outside. It's so beautiful. But you know, we'll go outside after the ceremony or whatever. Long story short, I'm setting up for the ceremony, right? And I always would see the guest list, like who was coming. And I didn't see, I saw one man's name on there. That was fine. I'm in the bathroom after setting up the space. The cacao is brewing. And I come out from behind the screen. It was in Casey King's studio, Lydia. You know Casey. This was no longer there now. But, and there's this man, this beautiful man, but like not even a man, just a being standing in the middle of the circle. And I'm like, we didn't start for like another 30 minutes. He was early. And I'm like, hi. And the thought that came in my mind was, what is he doing here? But I've never seen him before. So I'm like, why did I just say, what is he doing here? I don't know who he is. But it was like a real familiarity of, like, I knew him somehow, but on some level, I did know him, past life, whatever it was. But I didn't have time to go into all that at that moment. I had to prepare for like 20 some odd people coming in. And so I got him comfortable and sat down. And of course, throughout the ceremony, like I'm trying to give everyone individualized attention, because I would go around with sound bowls and give some healing and use aromatherapy or whatever was needed. And like my energy kept going to him, and I'm like, no, stop. And it wasn't like a sexual attraction, like when you see someone, you're like, oh, wow, he's really attractive or she's really attractive. And I wonder what they're like. It wasn't like that at all. It was something completely different, like a knowing, like I know this person, but how? So the ceremony ended. Some friends of mine who were there, we were going to go out to eat afterwards. And I said I would just invite him, I invited a few people. I was like, we're going to go over here to go have some Indian if anybody wants to come. And he's like, oh, I'd love to. And I was like, yes. More about this person and figure out. And before we walked out the door, we were all tidying up. He like caught me and he's like, I just got to give you a hug. Thank you so much for that ceremony. That was amazing. And I was like, yeah, thanks for coming. And so we hugged and he's like, so where do you live? And I'm like, oh, I live in Dublin, but I'm looking to move out to Wicklow. He's like, I have a room. You could move in with me. And I'm like, but it didn't seem weird that he invited me to live with him. It just seemed normal. It also didn't seem like just a random guy being like, I've got room for rent. It was something different. So I'm like, you just asked me to move in with you. And he's like, well, I know that's weird. It's like, well, I have a dog, my dog, Ananda, who's now with Erica. I said, I have a dog being delivered from Nepal because I was just there doing some charity work and studying Buddhism. And so I rescued a dog. She's going to be like coming on an airplane in just a couple of months. So, and he's like, oh, I don't really do dogs. I just bark a lot. I meditate a lot. And I was like, well, then I definitely can't live there. And he's like, okay, you can bring your dog. And it was just like, we're having this conversation and it was so weird, but also so natural. So cut to the dinner. We're all sitting there having dinner. He sits across from me. He's chatting to my friend the whole time. And I had been manifesting a partner for like solidly for a year, not dating anybody, just like communicating with the universe. This is what I need. This is what I don't need. And the day before this ceremony and us sitting across from the table, I was in a little shop in Dublin getting some house plants. And it was the summer solstice. I wanted house plants. And the man who was helping me was so kind and so knowledgeable about plants. And he had just such a beautiful energy. And I was like, you know what, universe? I love plants, but I'm not very good at caring for them, especially indoor plants. So I said, like my person has to know about plants and like love to take care of them because I need them around me and I need them to survive. Go back to us sitting across from the table from each other. And I hear him talking to my friend and he told her, I just planted 180 medicinal plants that are good for hormone health in my back garden. And I was like, boom, it's him. I know it's him. And 6 weeks later, we were pregnant naturally. I had gone through a major surgery a year and a half before. I had frozen my eggs, still have them frozen in Dundrum. I had looked at artificial insemination. I was going to become a mother all on my own. That didn't work out, so I reconsidered. And met him. at my cacao ceremony, 6 weeks later, pregnant naturally, total cacao relationship, baby, marriage, everything. So when you ask me, like, do I care about the nutritional properties of cacao? Of course, but also that's not what changed my life.
Gotcha.
Through cacao.
I was going to ask you, did you have any like anecdotes or stories about how cacao had changed people's life? But I think that's the most profound story of all time.
Literally all time. That's wild. That's really wild.
I mean, think if anyone's listening and they're thinking like, how can I enhance
maybe
my Valentine's Day
yeah.
experience?
That's
a phenomenal story.
And there's a lot of like, so it's interesting because I guess, I mean, you've obviously done a lot of work on manifesting as well around kind of that. The interesting is, I suppose, manifesting outwards involves a real knowing inwards, doesn't it? That's what it has to be, except know what you want. And I guess that's the thing that cacao is really serving, isn't it? It's that kind of inward journey, understanding yourself, understanding your needs, understanding what your do's and don'ts and your shoulds and shouldn'ts or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one thing she's really good for, because it can be hard to get clear on what it is we want. Like, I talk to so many people, and that's one of their things, like they want a partner, or they want a new job, or they want a new life, you know, but they don't know exactly what they want in that person or in that new life or in that new job. And you need to know those things. And working with Ceremonial Cacao, she's really good at helping us get clarity.
Yeah, that's cool. That's, I mean, that's a powerful energetic connection you have with it. Amazing, really amazing. And like, do you think if people are consuming cacao in any sort of less mindful way than a ceremony, is it still doing them benefit, or does it really have to be sit in ceremony in order to really listen and understand this thing?
No, I think she can be done both ways. Like, for example, for myself, I have a small child. I'm running around a lot, running my own business, also running a household. That's why I drink my cacao out of a thermal cup now, because I actually don't have the time to sit for even 5 minutes every morning. I try, I do try, but I don't often get that. So what I do, put my cacao in the cup, drive to kindergarten, and then I sit in the car for a few minutes and she's still warm, So yeah, I think it can be done both ways. I think what the important thing is the intention behind why you're drinking. And that's what makes it meaningful. If you're new to ceremonial cacao, I believe to really understand the connection you can have to this plant, it's a good idea to go to some ceremonies, because whoever is holding the space, you're going to learn something about how to work with ceremonial cacao that you might not at home, watching a video or listening to a podcast or reading in a book, so that is a suggestion I would make. You can definitely have your own practice at home, but reach out to some facilitators and see what you can learn to enhance and deepen your practice at home.
Cool, great. Okay.
So you have this beautiful cacao brand, and
yes,
you are going to stop this.
That was where I'm going. Yeah, so very, very exciting. We are about to stock your lovely Magic Earth cacao, your Guatemalan and your Peruvian varieties, and so they'll be stocked in our shop, I think, well, hopefully within the next few days. We're also doing a little giveaway, right?
Yes.
So one of our viewers or listeners is going to be able to get, what's the starter pack, I think is what you were talking about.
Yeah, we call it the starter bundle. So you get, I'm sorry, I wish I had a picture in front of me. So you'll get a half-pound bar of the Peruvian and a half-pound bar of the Guatemalan, which is a round. They have different energies and different flavors. And you will also get we'll need an email address for whoever this special listener is, because they'll get a digital version of the Cacao Magic Journal. It has 17 consciousness prompts to help us learn how to work with cacao at home and deepen our practice.
Beautiful.
Okay.
The reason it's digital is so that we can save trees, and it's much cheaper.
Makes much more sense. So in order to qualify for this lovely giveaway, what we're going to ask you guys to do is, either whether you're on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube, you guys need to like and comment below and review the podcast. And what we'll do is we'll pick at random from everybody who does that, and we will nominate that before the end of this week so that you can get your cacao hopefully in time for Valentine's Day. Very exciting. Wow.
So exciting. Thank you so much for joining us, Mandalei. It's been so nice to hear your stories and to hear more about the magic of cacao, and it's making me really want to go just make some cacao and sit in ceremony.
Exactly. Yeah, ditto. Sit in sauna ceremony. Why not?
Exactly.
So yes, and on segue, sauna ceremony. Speaking of such, we just have to thank our sponsors for this supporting what we do. So we have Clearlight, a fantastic infrared sauna partner. So thanks to them. If you guys have any sort of want or draw towards sitting and sweating in ceremony, maybe with cacao in there as well, come and talk to us. We can give you discount codes and give you all the giddy, juicy details of why sauna could be good for you and how you can get the best out of it, and we can help you do the installation, all that sort of fun stuff. So, and then also we have our own lovely Wandering into Wellness clothing brand. So the wanderingintowellnessproject.com is where you can go if you want to pick up our organic cotton clothing brand. We have just a few pieces left, designed in partnership with a Bulgarian artist, printed here in Dublin, all in organic cotton, like you say, from just a handful of farms, really nice quality stuff. Good things to wear when you're outdoors sitting on the side of a hill, sipping your cacao from your thermos, perhaps. Mandalei, thank you so much. That was such an amazing share, and we've learned so much. And yeah, hopefully our listeners, I'm sure, will have as well, and people will be double dosing cacao, no doubt, based on your testimonial. So thanks a million. Cheers for watching, guys.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. And thank you to everybody watching and listening.
Bye.